Hi everyone, welcome to Business Spotlight. Today I've got David Dwyer of Inspire Digital. David, how you doing today? And thanks very much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
No, thanks for inviting on, Mark. Been looking forward to this for a while.
Excellent, excellent. So David, tell us a little bit about yourself, and can you tell us a little bit about Inspire Digital and how long has the business been running for, please?
Yeah, sure. So I'll pick off Inspire first. So we've been trading for 16 years. We are now what I would probably call an agency who covers in-depth development, visibility, design, and what we're now rebranding our support as, which is facilities management for websites.
Excellent.
So that's Inspire. Um, in terms of my career and journey to where I am, um, I mean, I'm not really quite sure where to go with that. I mean, if I go back to the start, left school, went to work for an insurance company, didn't like it, did an economics degree to get, um, then went to work for Scottish Newcastle. Um, Um, Used my degree there, enjoyed it, but could see the writing on the wall with the drinks industry. So got to around the Millennium Bug time, around the 2000, 2001, took a year out, living in Dundee, commuted to Heriot Watt, did my Masters in IT and AI. On the back of that, I then joined Aviva on their mentor program. So I was very fortunate to do a huge range of different roles within Aviva and ended up as a third party and business change project manager. However, I wanted to have a family. I could see my career was going to be traveling all the time and been spending most of my time away from home. So decided to start Inspire. And that was in 2008. And obviously from then till now, we've been on a pretty straight line in terms of growing. Um, but the main growth for us came during COVID, when we kind of were in a position to create a plan to thrive, not to survive, which has helped us obviously over those few years, and then obviously now we're realizing the consequences of the challenges of growing quickly and the pain that comes with that.
Yeah, yeah. Could you sort of elaborate a little bit more on that then? Because that was going to be my next question. Is because growth obviously it can be a positive thing, but also yeah, it does come with its challenges at times, David. So yeah, could you tell us a little bit about some of those challenges then?
I mean, the challenges are pretty varied. I mean, we've always tried to introduce process into the business, so that when we scale, the process is followed, and that's served us well. But one of the challenges with the model that we have as well is that we had to move to a remote working model, and much as the processes were there and the people have changed over the years, and it then means that we then have to be able to go through retraining. It then means that we then have challenges in terms of um, different how to explain this, just different challenges in terms of running the business
Hmm.
in a way in which you need to understand the different cultures that we're working with, um, but also the changing nature of the landscape that we work in.
Yeah,
So the processes need to be constantly under scrutiny to evolve. I mean, so for example, bringing in an AI champion in January last year really helped us in terms of looking to how we augment our people, um, and how we automate business processes. But that's based upon the assumption that you have a sound basis. So there's an assumption for me that everybody had a role, responsibility, accountability in place document, that everybody had a continuous professional development plan in place, that our business processes were being followed consistently by everyone. And obviously, when you start to dig into it, you then start to realise that there's a number of gaps that you expected to have been picked up and dealt with previously, but they weren't. But that's one of the challenges with growing, is that um, managing a team of four is not the same as managing a team of seven.
yeah.
So having people who are with you and are growing, um, then you then start to kind of expose areas where we need to support people. And then that then starts to kind of take time away from other elements of the business in order to do that successfully.
Yeah, yeah. Great answer. I mean, you've given us a fantastic insight into the people management that comes with that growth, but also the investment in people, and it sounds like you've done a lot of that and having to move along with the times, with the with your processes. Fantastic. During that time then of growth and moving, as you said earlier in your answer about remote working, what's been your biggest learning during that time then?
Um, I think there's a few things. I think one is, um, and I'll probably go in reverse order. So, the social aspect has been a big one, um, because not everybody is suited to working from home. Um, and what we've found is that by bringing people over to the UK, actually helped foster a closer working relationship and a better understanding of each other. Because we've got people that we've never that work with us who work for us and with us that we've never met in person. So having them over here has made a big difference. I mean, there was plans for us to go abroad, but just the way in which the visa was working would have worked out, and the timings would have worked out. It was easier to bring them here. So that's been a big learning. Another one was we started doing huddles in the morning, and we introduced an end of day and completion and billables at the end of the day. So the start of the day, the teams would meet. They would go through a kind of pretty loose agenda about what does a great day look like, and also what kind of work are they going to be working on, which clients are they going to be talking to, so that there's a cohesiveness of a team. But that cohesiveness is difficult when you've got people from different parts of the planet working in the same team. But the end of day is then also about them posting what work they'd managed to get through, um, and what work they were kind of going through, and then from us, from a billable perspective, what kind of invoicing do we need to raise, etc. But that then evolved into what we'd probably call more of a almost an operating system, um, to use the parlance from the sector that we're in. And we heavily use Teams now. So we have Teams channels, we have sub channels within Teams about various tasks. And we've also got a social channel as well, which helps people kind of contribute towards. We set up a social committee, so that the staff themselves could suggest ideas and bring ideas forward that we could then support them with.
Yeah, yeah.
So those are some of the learnings we've had. Um, some of the things we did straight day from day zero, from obviously going remote, and they've worked well. And all we've really needed to do is to tweak them.
Mhm.
But there's other things that we felt we needed to do that we didn't do. I mean, originally, we had tried to evolve the agenda, and then what we found was that the meeting was taking up too much time. And also it was very staid. There
Mhm.
wasn't much fun or much joy. Um, I was trying to remember who it was, but I was listening to an interview with one of the American football manager coaches, and he was talking about the fourth value he had was joy, in terms of how what he brought to the what he expected different people in the team to bring. Yeah, we bring different things, but that kind of resonated with me, and it was something we've tried to do. I'm not the most joyful of people, but that doesn't mean to say that we can't employ joyful people, to try and support it. So yeah, so I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that is really interesting. Yeah, and I absolutely loved what you just said there. Yeah, and actually, David, I know you. You're a very joyful person. So, I'd like to go back to part of your first answer, because I'm always interested as to why people go into business. So you did say that you were starting a family, and was that the main factor, or was there other things that come into it? You know, was there always
I
a,
think
a
it's,
desire
I,
to go into business for
I think,
yourself?
no, it wasn't. It wasn't a desire. I mean, I'm a great believer in necessity is the mother of invention and father's the opportunity. And I think that when I left Aviva, I was originally going to put myself out there as a Prince 2 practitioner project manager because people I was working with and managing were on contractor rates, and the contractor rates were significantly higher. So I'd kind of persuaded my boss to let me go, um, with the intent that I would be able to maybe pick up the odd contract but not have to work as much. But that was in 2008, just before the financial crash. And the financial crash came, the day rates dried up, the jobs dried up, even just the normal kind of run of the mill project managers' jobs dried up. And I kind of was faced with a situation of what can I do now to make a living? And that's what I was saying about necessity was the key one for me. Yes, I had taken a package to leave, or sorry, I got a package to leave. Yes, that I had an academic background in business economics. I had gone and applied that with Scottish Newcastle, having joined as a grad and then ultimately sales rep, and then moved into a business development role. So kind of was comfortable in that space in terms of I was capable and I felt I was capable to go out and kind of persuade people to that we could deliver a good service and product and I could articulate that clearly. But also from my masters, I'd gone again and got an academic background and then gone and applied it in a corporate environment. So I felt capable. I mean, the it would manage TCS and Wipro, so we knew how the offshoring model should work, but could see many people out there just not applying it correctly. And also from my Scottish Brewers time, it was about customer delights, not customer satisfaction. So why try and build a relationship and then dump them once you've built the website to move on to the next relationship? I just thought that was insane. And I knew the cost to acquire work was always going to be higher than the cost to retain it. So what we did was we just put our efforts into trying to be the best of what we could be, but also make sure that we listen to our customers and we listen to their needs and we tried to align ourselves with what their objectives were, but also share with them what ours were.
Mhm.
And that's, I suppose, it's a long way round answering your question of um, what was the galvanizing point for you. It was probably realizing that the job I wanted to do wasn't going to be available, and it wasn't going to be available for some time. So obviously, I needed to. My first plan didn't work, so I now needed to look at what my plan B was. And I could see that people in our sector, generally, were just wanting to build things and move on, whereas I thought there was a space and an opportunity for somebody who wanted to do a bit more.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Excellent. And what have you learnt about yourself during that
Oh,
time? And and I think you said 2008, so 16 years in business. What have you learnt about yourself?
I mean, there's a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a traumatic experience running a business. It is, right? It's traumatic. And much as and I've spoken to lots of different people who've been way more successful than I have. And just shared with them, it's like, how did you manage to do that? And it's like, without obviously having the baggage. And they said, well, there, but for the grace of God, David. Okay. And the key thing for me has been there's been a consequence for personal health, mental health. There's a consequence in terms of from the benefits of actually being a master of your own destiny and kind of being in a position that you can determine what your path is. But there's a consequence as well where you don't have a big marketing department behind you. You don't have cover for you at weekends. You don't have cover for you when you go on holiday, particularly the earlier stages. So you learn an awful lot about how to deal with stress. You deal how to deal with anxiety, um, and and I think for me it's been a constant challenge, and a constant battle. Um, and there's times that you don't want to get up in the morning. There's times when you've got people not paying you. There's times when you've got people who um, drop you as soon as they can because they find a cheaper price somewhere else. But I've always taken the view that if everybody on the planet wanted to work with me, I couldn't cope. And that is one of the reasons why we have our values in the business and that we worked on very hard. And that's been a journey in itself. Um, but we've morphed. I mean, we went from what, two people up to a peak of probably about 33, 34 people. Sometimes wonder, is it 34? Because I'm never sure whether I should include myself in that number. Um, but I mean, and in the last year, I've pared it back because I felt that there was too many people who were spoiling the broth insofar as the processes where the process became the business, when the process within the business, but not at the detriment of what the delivery should be and what the customer needs are and what our needs are. So I think learning has been, I mean, I learned that there's things like founders' values as well as a company values. I've learned that we have our employee attributes. I've learned that we have our vision and our mission. So for me, for example, the the mission and the vision in the business is to um, raise professional standards in the delivery of what we do, which is digital services. The mission is to go above and beyond to deliver. And originally we had go above and beyond to deliver a return on investment through the delivery of what we do. But what we did was we changed that so that it was about the opportunity of the return value, because we're not in control of customers' prices, we're not in control of the quality of customer service, but we are responsible in terms of putting people in front of them or putting them in front of people. Values, we looked at, we did a huge exercise with it, and then we then realised that the values didn't sit right because the people had changed and the people had moved on, and the people that were passionate or were kind of committed to some values had moved on. So we needed to kind of decide, right, okay, well, these are more David's founding values. And then we then needed to kind of revisit it again. So we ended up with passion, integrity, and ingenuity
Mhm.
within the business. And we also came up with our employee attributes. And the employee attributes were impressive, involved, inspiring, inclusive, innovative, and improving. And that gave us an opportunity to um, start to explain to people how we want them to kind of conduct themselves, but also what types of people did we want to bring into the business. So we went through, I mean, I've been through Myers-Briggs and various other personality type testing right through to insights. So that's given me an insight into who I am, but we also used that to kind of try and identify people when before they came in.
Mhm.
Um, Big learning, really big learning was um, being slow to hire and fast to fire. I'd always thought that was about waiting on the perfect person, perfect candidate coming along. And the reality is, it's just about going through the right steps and putting them through the obviously a capability test, maybe a psychometric test, maybe meeting the team, obviously doing an interview, and then obviously maybe obviously reviewing their CV in terms of their background and following up on references. Um, and and the danger we had when we grew quite quickly was it was important that we bring in people to do the job, but it's also equally important to bring in the right people to do the job. Um, and or it could be that not everybody who joined you at the start of the organisation is the same people that were going to be with us now. I mean, I think there's only two of us that are here for what I think 7+ years, and we've been trading 16 years. Um, so there's been a huge change in terms of the people that we've had in the business. Um, but again, that's about just raising standards, continually trying to kind of deliver more.
Mhm.
Um, and and that's we're not the right partner for everybody, um, or a right an employer for everyone. But also equally, I want to have certain expectations for people coming in, and the world's changed enormously. I'm sure you've probably heard that from others. The world of work has changed hugely in the last few years. But if I go back the last 16 years, um, it's almost unrecognisable.
Yeah, yeah. Um, some brilliant insights there, and thanks for sharing a lot of that, especially, the challenge of getting the right people. Speak to people all the time, and yeah, just getting the right people on board is really tough. And yes, I think I've taken a lot of learnings from that myself there. So David, thank you very much. And again, hopefully, there'll be people out there watching this, and they're going to learn from it. And the last thing that I'd like to ask is, if you could um go back and speak to your 18-year-old self, you know, what advice would you give them? And kind of, a bit of advice as well for anyone who's looking to go into business for themselves and do their own business venture. What advice would you give yourself, your 18-year-old self, and anyone going out there to do it for themselves?
Get themselves a mentor.
Get a mentor.
Simple,
Yeah,
simple.
that is it. That is the best advice. Yeah, absolutely. Get a mentor. And I know that was going to be my last question, but have you had mentors yourself during this time?
So yeah,
Yeah.
so the reason I was saying sharing that is, I mean, the deeper answer to that question is look around within your network, within your family and friends, because typically, if you're 18, you won't have much in the way of a business network yet. So look around and see who you feel that you can get on with, feel that you can respect, okay, and that will be open and transparent with you and honest with you. Um, so it's not necessarily about looking to, or indeed it could just be reaching out to somebody that you admire and just saying, "Look, I'm thinking about doing this. Would you be willing to help me?" I mean, I get it's not very often, but I regularly get people reaching out, just saying, "Look, can you give me some advice?" And more than happy to kind of answer on that. Um, in terms of myself, yeah, I mean, I've went through a variety of different mentors and coaches over the years, but I'm a believer in continuous self development. So I've just finished the Advantage program through Strathclyde University. I've finished the Help to Grow scheme through Strathclyde University, through Rishi Sunak's scheme, that is accessible for anybody in the UK to go to a local university and go through it. But I've also been away on retreats. I've also gone and kind of learnt from going to seminars or listening to colleagues or um, just kind of following up on advice from my mentors. I mean, one of the challenges I had, and we picked up on this earlier, was when I was at my deepest and darkest place. I just looked at my LinkedIn network and said to myself, who's the most successful person that I'm connected to? That they actually know me. Um, and I reached out to them and said, look, I'm really struggling. I said, I'm doing whatever I can. I'm doing everything I think I should be doing, and I'm not getting the results. And I went to see I was asked to bring down just to note down some challenges that I had and the things I was working on. So I took my 17-page to-do list, and he
Wow.
said to me, he said, David, if you want me to work with you, that's going in the bin. He said, because I'll tell you right now, you're micromanaging your people. He said they will be feeling um, really under pressure to deliver the standards that you are expecting to do, and they're never going to do it. So one of the things you need to be able to do is to give people, delegate to people, but give them the space to breathe, but also the space to make mistakes. And I hadn't appreciated how much and how intense I was in terms of driving the business forward. And that was a wake up call for me. So if I had heard that like even years before, I mean, that was in what year 8 or 9 of starting trading? I mean, if I had heard that years ago, then I would have stopped it. I mean, I was tracking my time based on 6-minute time blocks. And that was up to as far as 2016. So for the first 8 years, I mean, that's insane. For the owner to be doing that and then expecting all his team to be doing it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it gave me a tremendous amount of insight into my business. I was able to understand how much time I was spending on marketing. I was able to understand how much time I was spending on accounts or bookkeeping, or which opportunities we had followed up on that we didn't get, and what was the time wasted on it, and what was the sectors. So, I mean, all of that information was ready to hand, but it prevented me from seeing the prize and losing sight of what was important. Um, so that's so to kind of answer the question, um, get yourself a mentor is the piece of advice. But the other one as well is people talk about faking it until they make it, right? I would reverse that and say, believe in yourself because you're capable.
Brilliant.
And that's quite profound. But just so that one, just believe in yourself. And if you make a mistake, I mean, in the US, they don't I mean, it's kind of well recognized that you're not particularly running a successful business, probably until you've had about 3 or 4 failures. The fifth one's going to be the one because you've learnt. And from having business processes, you've learnt what business processes work. So you take the good things on to the next one, right? So fortunately, I'm going to contradict myself now, but fortunately, we haven't failed, and then I haven't failed, and then I've had to start again. Um, but you still feel that feeling of, "Ah, I should have done that, or I should have done that." And sometimes it's a challenge to think that have I been polishing a turd, right? Right? Or should I just start from the beginning again? So hopefully that's helped answer your question.
That's a great answer, David. It's a great answer. And what I'm taking from this whole interview is that you've just educated us, but you're forever the student as well. And I think
Absolutely.
absolutely, yeah, because and I'm saying that because I've learned a lot from you in just the last 25 minutes, but also so you've educated me, but also you're talking about how the challenges and you're going to make mistakes, you're going to learn from failures, you keep going, and absolutely. So David, it's been absolutely a brilliant interview. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. So many learnings here. So thank you so much. I think our viewers are going to take a lot from this. So David, um, of Inspire Digital, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much for the opportunity, Mark. Cheers.
No problem. No problem, David. All right. Thank you very much for watching. Again, you've had David Dwyer of Inspired Digital. Check him out. He's fantastic. Thank you so much, David. And I'm Mark Hunter of Action Coach. Thanks for watching. You've been watching Business Spotlight. Cheers. Bye now.